Thank you. Senator Hawley.
I think maybe I've misunderstood this last line of questioning. I thought it sounded to me like my friend Senator Durbin was defending the Korematsu decision, which I think is one of the worst and most abhorrent decisions in the history of the United States. So I just want to be clear on this. Let me give you all a chance to weigh in on this. When we have a decision that is absolutely morally abhorrent, Korematsu, Dred Scott, we can go down the line. Should officials who disagree with a morally abhorrent decision just blindly follow it, or do they register their disagreements? I suppose if they have to, they resign and protest. I mean, there's a system for this, there's a pattern for this, but is the United States of America better off if our public officials, in the face of grievous moral wrong, say and do nothing? Mr. Sauer?
I strongly agree, Senator Hawley, with your reaction to that. And the only point I was trying to make in my exchange with the ranking member was it's hard to make a very blanket, sweeping statement about something without being presented with the facts and the law that apply to that particular scenario. So those historical examples, I think, are designed to illustrate the difficulty of doing that.
Mr. Reitz, you want to add anything?
Yeah, thank you for your background and also for teeing up that question. I stand by my earlier comments, which is to say that there is no hard and fast rule about whether in every instance a public official is bound by a court decision. There are some instances in which he or she may lawfully be bound and other instances in which he or she may not lawfully be bound.
Well, certainly I know that everybody sitting on this panel in front of me is a firm believer in the rule of law. It just seems that to me, we can multiply these instances. The Fugitive Slave Act, for example. And we had numerous judges and other public officials when the Supreme Court said that the Fugitive Slave Law, an absolutely abhorrent law, had to be enforced in the North. You had multiple judges who said, I can't in good conscience enforce this. Many of them then resigned. The United States might be a better place if more of them had done so and had taken a stand firmly against such injustice. So I can't believe that it's the position of anybody on this committee that in the face of decisions like Korematsu and Dred Scott and the Fugitive Slave Act that we should say to people, oh, just grin and bear it, don't say anything, enforce the law, for heaven's sake. I mean, good heavens. Ms. Dillon, let me ask you, you spoke very movingly about religious liberty, and it made me think of that line that America didn't invent religious liberty invented America. And your family's story is certainly a testament to that. I also am mindful of the fact that in the last 4 years, we have seen unprecedented attacks on religious liberty in this country. Absolutely abhorrent attacks on people of faith. Just to take one example, after the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision, 100 pregnancy care centers, more than that, were vandalized, criminally assaulted, firebombed. Over 300 churches, many of them Catholic churches, were targeted in the same manner. The Biden Justice Department did nothing to defend these institutions. They let them twist in the wind. They allowed the violence to go on virtually unchecked. And indeed, members of this body encouraged this kind of violence with outrageous, irresponsible rhetoric on the floor of the United States Senate and on the floor of the United States House of Representatives. My question to you is, will you commit to stopping the disparate treatment of Americans on the basis of religious faith that we have seen in the last 4 years? Will you make sure that people of faith are protected in the religious expression of their most deeply held beliefs?
Thank you for that question, Senator Hawley. I believe my career and the disclosures made to the Senate would back up the fact that my entire career in 32 years has included religious liberty litigation on the side of people of faith, of minority and majority faiths. And I'm very proud of that, and I've won cases at the United States Supreme Court defending people of faith from government tyranny and obstruction. And so I would absolutely be committed as a top priority in the Civil Rights Division, if confirmed, to defending people of faith equally.
Very good. And will you investigate and, where it's warranted, prosecute those who carry out attacks on pregnancy care centers, places of worship, those who with religious or maybe it's anti-religious motivation target people of faith in their houses of worship and other places where frankly they're quite vulnerable?
Absolutely, Senator. I don't think there's any question about that.
Good. Let me ask you about anti-Semitism on America's campuses. You referenced this, I think, in your opening statement. Since October 7th of 2023, we've seen the most horrific explosion of anti-Semitic violence. Just yesterday, I met in my office with a a young man, a student at DePaul University, an ROTC member. He's also Jewish. He's a Jewish American. His arm was in a sling because he had been physically assaulted on his campus. What was his offense? He had been tabling in support of the state of Israel. Will you commit to vigorously enforcing, Ms. Dillon, Title VI violations related to anti-Semitism to make sure that we root out this scourge on America's campuses?
If you want to briefly
Absolutely,
answer.
Senator, I would certainly commit to that.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam
Senator
Chair.
Cruz.
Mr. Sauer, thank you for your service as a federal prosecutor, and to the people of Missouri. Mr. Reitz, for your service